Hello and welcome to the 65th episode of Off the Record. This is my last episode of Off the Record, but Jesse will continue seeing Off the Record into the great abyss of the music industry, its perils, its Taylor Swift sagas, and more.
We could say this is the final episode of 1.0. I'm gonna actually number the episodes inspired by Mr. Robot. When the next one comes back, it's gonna be 2.0.
You're such a follower.
I'm just inspired by the art around me. Thank you very much.
You're supposed to be a creator, Jesse.
You're
not supposed to be putting out derivative works.
Zack, I steal from my favorite thieves.
Wow.
Yeah, see, you don't want to fuck with this dog who's writing a book on creativity right now. You don't want to go there.
Jesse confided in me off the record, no pun intended, just a few minutes ago, that at least one of every 5 shows in the future will be focused on Taylor Swift and streaming together.
There's no truth to that.
We'll see. It's the Republican debate night. Anything could happen in Jesse's mind.
I mean, this is literally the day I've been waiting for almost 4 years.
Yeah.
My only disappointment is Santorum's not in the debate because, usually he really spices it up with the stupid. But
yeah. It's not that Jesse cares about the election. It's just that he cares about the Republican debates.
I care about the good jokes I'm going to tweet tonight.
Right. Yeah. If you want to unfollow Jesse, now would be your time.
The 24-hour mute is on Tweetbot is definitely a good day for me.
Do you welcome that for you?
I mean, I do it to everybody else when the sports are on. Uh-huh. This is like my Super Bowl.
Well, how often do you mute me, Jesse?
You, not really.
I've never really muted anyone that I'm I'll mute people that I just don't like. But the only people I ever mute that I'm friends with is Thomas.
You know what's funny? I think I muted Thomas during a college football game a couple years ago when he was editing my book.
He was just unbearable.
He was just, there was one point I was I think I was sick. I just couldn't do it. But you know what I also mute people is when the people get in the fight where neither are listening to each other.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So wait, why are you... So you have people over tonight, but the TV will be on mute for the debate?
Oh, absolutely not. What are you talking about? I got to hear Trump just going cray.
Oh, is he in it?
Yeah, Trump's number one on the idiot Republican side, dog.
I don't know, man. I'm missing your party. I'm sorry.
Trump is number one by double, dog.
I did know that. How many people are coming to your shindig?
Oh, less than a dozen. It's not. I only invited. It
was an exclusive group.
Yeah, I didn't go crazy.
Wow, I feel so grateful that I made it.
I know, and I think I invited 20 to get down to 12 because as you know, with a party, about 50% never go to show. So
of course, it's just like any Facebook group invited you by a promoter in St. Louis.
I think that's actually a ratio of a third.
Yeah. Talking about Thomas and how big of an idiot he is. Did we talk about last week of my confirmation of moving?
You said that you might be moving to Brooklyn.
It would seem like it's official.
That's such a good end to this. That
I know.
That you have this era because you know just as I said when you got to that Courtney Barnett record your hipster conversion is finally converted. You're moving to very hip Bed-Stuy, Brooklyn, which is arguably even more hip than my neighborhood.
This is like a photo finish ending for me, right?
Yeah. I mean, I feel like your hipster butterfly wings have spread, and this is just great. I really look forward to running into you with a artisanally waxed mustache in a year.
I just can't grow that. I know.
Oh, you would though. I do appreciate that.
Yeah.
So
we think try stuff once.
What do we think you're gonna do? Are you gonna do the lumber sexual, the bi-curious fisherman, the trolley conductor?
What's the trolley conductor?
That's the old timey guy with the suspenders. Then the bi-curious fisherman is.
I can't do that.
The bi-curious fisherman's the really sculpted guy with the mustache and
I'm interested in that, but I don't know that my body will be able to do it. I did have a talk with Grace today about that. I need to buy some new shirts.
I think so too. Your tank toppy look does not go well in Brooklyn.
Yeah, well, I don't really care about that, but I may need to wear some button down soon, which I really don't love. I don't love that at all.
Do you want to go shopping?
I don't want to go shopping with you, Jesse.
I'll take you to Uniqlo.
I guess I have to go. How are their pricings?
Oh, Uniqlo is very inexpensive, and the clothes last a good amount of time. very, very avid Uniqlo shopper.
If you had to give me an average button-down shirt cost off the top of your head.
So you see the Oxfords I wear and all that
Yes.
stuff? Those are about $30.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's inexpensive.
See, you try to deny it, but
No, that's good. I just didn't know what it would cost.
I'm offering to be your fashion stylist, and you're turning me down.
I'm gonna need to be drunk before.
No, listen, we could get white girl at brunch. And
Are there
then
Uniqlos in Brooklyn?
No, well, oh, no, that's not true. There's one over by the Barclays Center.
Ugh, well,
Yeah. I prefer the Soho one because all the shops are around Soho.
You're trying to get me to go to Soho now?
Dog, I'm just saying we can go shopping. We can have a lovely man date.
Yeah, so it would seem that I'm going to move in on September 15th in the Clinton Hill, Bed-Stuy area.
Let's not glorify. That's Bed-Stuy.
Okay, I don't really know, so you tell me.
It's to the, what do you call it?
Does Clinton Hill not exist then? Is that a
No,
myth?
well, Clinton Hill is a fake neighborhood. But Clinton Hill's a fake neighborhood, but even then, you're not on you're past Clinton, so you're not in Clinton Hill.
Can I tell you something? Mm-hmm. My mother is ashamed of me.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
What's she ashamed of you
let
about?
my family down.
I'm very sorry to hear this. They don't like you going back to Brooklyn. What could they hate about Brooklyn? The nice Jewish people? There's lots of nice Jewish people?
Holy shit. There is the running of the Jews in the neighborhood.
Well, if you think of it this way, all you and I are technically separated by now in housing is a big row of Hasids. Like, that's really all that's between us.
So she should at least feel safe from me, right? Like,
yeah, I mean, technically, you could run through a pack of Hasids and run here if nuclear Armageddon had, because I would definitely be the right person to be around during nuclear Armageddon.
Okay.
But we technically live, like, right down the street. Like, literally, it's like 2 turns to get to each other's houses.
God, that's crazy. And I'm 10 minutes away from Grace, which is nice. Mm-hmm. Grace moved to this place, and she's right between a incredible bakery and a wine store. Like, she's sandwiched between, which is great.
Yeah.
Like, pretty solid. But I'm, of course, very concerned for myself. Concerned what might happen to me. I'm concerned if I may grow a mustache. And I'm just going to need some support. But I don't have any more support anymore because I quit everything. So
but that's what you get.
I can't even scream to the rooftops on my blog because it won't exist.
Well,
it's dangerous.
You do have Twitter followers still. You know, they could bail you out when you're thinking about buying an expensive artisanal cheese, and you know you just don't know.
I like cheese though.
Well, I mean, I'm about to for this party drop like $40 on this expensive artisanal cheese.
What kind of what? I don't like soft cheese. What do you think about soft cheese?
Oh no, I'm very big. What I do for my part. Here's my party secret for all the kids when they get older. The stinkiest cheese you can find for one.
Why?
Because a pungent cheese goes very well with really good bread and really rustic bread, and then it brings out the flavors of the other ones. So then you get a blue and then a brie at minimum. But then you also want to do kind of like a flavorless cheese, like a Gruyere, you know, something like that on the side. And then that rounds out everything. That gives everybody's taste something, and it accentuates each other when you want to alternate cheeses very well. You get all the flavors of the cheeses then.
I'll consider this for my next Republican election debate.
Nice. So Zach, you know, the one thing I feel a little weird about is you didn't tip the kids off to the big announcement that happened 3 days later.
I didn't leak anything.
Yeah. So how are we to know that you're not going to quit everything this week, like the else that you do?
To tell you
and
the
then
truth,
just become like a suit.
I'm homeless right now. Like,
so are you going to work for Goldman Sachs? Is that what this is all about?
I'm getting paid, Jesse.
Nice.
I'm getting paid. I didn't have a heart to begin with, so I don't care about being a bad person. And so, yeah, I'm just going to get paid. This is why I need new button-downs for my suit.
You're like a modern-day Tyrell on Mr. Robot.
That's right. So I'm not quitting Bad Timing Records, and I am not quitting Synergy Management. I have quit J-Tree, I have quit Off the Record, I have quit Simpler Sound, and as I did not announce last week, but have announced since last week on this podcast, is that Property Zack will be coming to a close tomorrow on August 7th, which is crazy. I didn't tell a lot of people, and they were all very surprised. Half of the suits think that I'm up to something, which I'm not. But everyone thinks I have essentially been hired at Goldman Sachs. Or became Blink-182 or Brand New's manager. Neither of these things happened. I wish all of them did at the same time even.
That was why Mark Hoppus sent you that nice tweet.
Holy shit. Did we talk about that?
No, of course we didn't. We taped a week before that happened.
I just mean, like, did we? I don't even remember. It's just been a blur since Mark Hoppus tweeted me.
Pretty crazy.
That's pretty crazy, right?
Yeah, it's pretty crazy.
I woke up at like 6:30, just in the middle of the night, and I looked at my phone. And my least favorite part of every day, Jesse, this may or may not be your least favorite part of every day, but my least favorite part of every day, and it happens every day, is when I look at my phone in the morning.
Oh, I know.
Because I don't know what went wrong in the 7 hours I was asleep for.
So let me tip you something off for it.
Yeah.
That feeling gets a lot better when you stop managing bands. Like the years I was a band manager, the morning was much worse. Like now it's still like I look at it. I think I might still have PTSD from those days, but yeah, like the morning is really stressful when you manage bands. But then post that, it's just like, at worst I get a thing that says, I mixed the vocal too loud or something.
Right. So what's the scariest part is seeing, because I get like a gabillion emails. That doesn't matter. The scariest part is seeing how many text messages I have. Mm-hmm. And it was 6:30 in the morning, and I looked at my phone, and there was like 40 texts, and I was like, Jesus Christ, what is wrong? And this was right after, obviously, I announced the website, so I assumed that some of them were just about like, hey, this is weird. But I assumed that like something terrible happened on Warped Tour. They were all from a few friends. Like one of my friends, Talia, sent me like 17 texts of like the Mark Hoppus thing, and I was like, what? And I woke Grace up. But she sent me a screenshot, and I thought it was photoshopped. Mm-hmm. I was like,
I did too when I first saw it.
Yeah, everyone, like Thomas, I sent it to Thomas at like 8 a.m. that day, and he was like, oh, that's pretty funny. And then he got to the office like an hour later and was like, oh, that's real?
Yeah.
And that was my same reaction. So at least Mark Hoppus knows who I am.
It's pretty nice.
Yeah. I feel good about it. I feel like I'm definitely pretty popular.
You got some confirmation in your endeavors.
Yeah. I'm great, is what Jesse's saying.
I am. I'm very proud of you.
Well, thank you. It is kind of strange for that it's coming to an end, because I didn't expect it to ever come to an end. But
listening to your podcast with Cotter, like the parts of you talk about like the identity, it's always very strange. Even when you said you were leaving this, like part of what I had to think about was like, I feel like I've gotten some of my identity from this podcast, and
right.
And it's weird. Like when I decided I shouldn't manage bands anymore, it was like that was an easier identity thing to leave. But like whether you break up with somebody and all that, like I think one of the things people misplace in breakups a lot of the time is that like really what a lot of it is an identity crisis, because you think of yourself with that person.
Right. Yeah. Management's weird, because not that I have any desire to quit management, but I could see myself not managing in whenever in the future. And it doesn't feel like at this level that I'd be losing a part of myself, because the band obviously has 5 personalities that are the identity of that band, right? Mm-hmm. But with like the label, it's Thomas and I putting things out into the world. So that feels like it's part of my identity. And then the website felt like more me than me did, if that makes any sense, for so long. Not necessarily lately, but for so long, it was more frequent than anything else in my life. Anything. And so that was like a weird moment where I was like, oh, like on Monday after I made the announcement, I went to post news like a dozen times during the day. And I was just like, oh, I don't do this anymore. And then I realized I don't know how I'm going to get music news now on a timely basis.
I know, I had to subscribe to a whole bunch of other sites, and they're kind of annoying the shit out of me.
Yeah, I'm asking people to start a music website, because there's not a good one anymore.
Yeah. But I think it's funny with like the website thing. So when I decided I would not really blog up used information much anymore, that was like a very weird thing. But what I thought was interesting is like what's nice about putting out like say a book or a record is like that's you did that, and you don't have to keep doing that over and over. Even though I have to keep updating this book, you don't have to continually update and put this endeavor into something. And I think that there's something nice about that identity of like that. It's like, this is something I did. This is something I achieved, not just something I do that I have to constantly fucking do.
Yeah. And I'm looking forward to that, less of a constant in the back of my head has something blown up in the world. And that's great. It's strange and it's great. But I also I do know that eventually in X months I will start like a new personal blog eventually when I want to write things again. But I think what's important for me is that the parameters of what and why are going to be completely different. Like, it's not going to be like I am running a semi-business out of this. It's like, no, I may post a photo of a trip I took to Europe on the blog. Like, it's like stuff that's just I'm breaking out of it, which is strange because, again, I didn't think I'd do that, but that's what I'll do. And it's not like I'm saying I'll never write a word on the internet again, but it's going to be different. And that's strange because it was my identity. Now I'm homeless in identity too.
Well, that could be a good thing. You can learn a lot when you lose everything.
You can.
I've done it quite a few times, and while they're not at that point in my life, my favorite part, they usually become a good part in hindsight. Mm-hmm. So I wanted to just say a word about what's to come of this. So first off, I'm looking for somebody to help in research and production of the new version of Off the Record. The new version will not be two white guys with stuffed up voices talking to each other. It's going to be literally hundreds of people talking about issues, and I need somebody to help interview bands, do research on subjects, come up with good ideas, and do production. And so there's going to be a job listing on the Off the Record site. I'm looking for somebody who wants to help out with this. If you're interested and you've been a regular listener and it sounds like fun that you would help develop stories, talk to bands, etc., I'd love to hear from you. And I have what I'd like to know about you on the site. And then the second thing is since we won't really be talking about our futures much, I wanted to also say I have a cool new thing that's coming out in a couple weeks. It's called Noise Creators. I was asked to join it by listener Johnny Minardi, and what we are is a marketplace where people can learn about producers and get to know them and then see the prices and then book time with a producer and make a better choice about who you have work on your record. And that should be launching in around a month or so, somewhere in the fall, and I'm really excited about it, and I wanted to say that while I still have a soapbox to stand on, since this podcast won't be so self-promotional what we're doing anymore.
I have looked at the thing, and it looks cool.
Looked at the thing.
The Noise Creators thing. I'm trying not to leak future details. I don't know. I don't know what's NDA'd. I don't know what I've signed.
So much NDAing.
But people should check that out and follow Jesse at Jesse Cannon for future updates, where you can also be up to date on the latest Donald Trump news.
Well, and also the good jokes making fun of you.
Those jokes too.
Yeah, those are good jokes.
I don't know, Jesse. I'm going dark off the internet after
are you actually going to go dark?
I'm going dark.
Oh, nice.
I don't know how long.
I was going to say, I'm curious to see how long that lasts, because I don't think you're going to last.
I'm trying to last for 30 days.
I'll believe it when I see it.
I think it's like a detox.
Okay. You know how like when people do those things, like they're like, I went off the grid and all that stuff?
Yeah.
Like that's the opposite for me. Like the new internet's like a nutrient to me.
Mm. I mean,
I also know how to.
Would you be impressed if I didn't tweet for 30 days?
I mean, I know you're not going to not read Twitter for 30 days.
Oh, no, of course. I'm going to be on the internet. This is the thing. People are so interested about why I'm quitting my life right now. I want to continue confusing them and making them anxious.
You're into mystery. See, I'm not into mystery.
Right.
Unless it's that guy
mysterious.
with the only mystery I'm into is that guy with the funny hat who teaches losers how to pick up girls.
I know what you're talking about. I want to.
I think that's the thing. Like people, like, don't you feel like it's nutritious to get out what's in your head?
Oh yeah.
I never get that about like when people are like, I'm going off the internet for this much time. I'm like, because the internet is a nutritious, fulfilling thing to me, not something that makes me insane. But I think that's also because I've curated my internet to not be annoying. I get rid of people who suck.
Well, I'm gonna get rid of myself for you.
Oh,
yeah,
that's something.
Yeah.
Oh, I needed to say one more thing about the future of this podcast. Much to what I know our listeners' happiness will be, the podcast will not be on Thursdays anymore. I'm going to try to put it earlier in the week, but that also means I'm going to skip this Thursday while I get the new thing ready. So wait till 10, 11 days or so.
Okay. Good to know.
Yeah.
I won't delete it from my podcast feed, I guess.
I really appreciate that, Zach. Thank you.
You're welcome. Just to see how you ruin and defame me.
Yeah, well, I mean, I can't deny that there might be some jokes in the future.
Oh, It's incredibly hurtful.
And it's going to be great because you can't even respond to them.
No, I won't. Yeah,
especially if you're not going to be able to tweet.
I'm going to be blacked out.
Oh, man. Well, you're already getting the karma of this silly decision.
Now I don't
you
even
made.
know if I can do that.
All right. So now that we cleaned house, should we discuss some off-the-record-y things?
Yeah, let's talk about abuse and singers.
Well, he's technically not a singer, Zack.
Hip-hop artist. Jesse, I got really into the Drake Meek Mill thing over the weekend.
I know. We talked about this last week.
No, I know, but then I got further into it.
Oh,
I listened to all the diss tracks.
Oh, yeah. You liked that, huh?
Oh, yeah, I listened to the diss tracks right after we talked. After I also listened to your music, which was incredibly difficult to have play on MySpace.
Yeah, not the best hosting format.
No.
Well, that's what happens when you leak your 8-year-old product. Hey, I got 4 new Facebook likes.
4? Oh, so it's on Facebook?
I had a profile on Facebook because I would use that to experiment with things for Muse Formation and for the book. It wasn't really like an effort to get fans.
I have to, I'm going to have to like it on Facebook too.
Oh, nice. I'll send out a special update just for you in about 3 months and you'll be like, why the hell did I like this stupid thing? What is this?
Yeah.
So Dr. Dre, famously, and I guess it gets kind of funny because like I remembered this.
I didn't know any of this.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's a funny thing too because I tweeted like the thing too of that like, it's very well known that, I mean, at least it's very well known in the not printed world. Dr. Dre has been outed as a bisexual numerous times.
Really?
Yeah, I tweeted this. I thought it was really weird when like Tim Cook was getting outed that Dr. Dre did it out. And here was a great point. Do you remember the video of when Dr. Dre was like first billionaire in hip hop? Da 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 da. Did you notice there was no girls at that hip hop party?
I didn't notice that.
Yeah, well, there's a reason for that. So Tupac went on Howard Stern, probably back when you were, 2. Mm-hmm. And Tupac outed Dr. Dre as being gay. Oh. And then there's this
Did that cause beef, or were they friends?
Not so much. But okay. So it was pretty fucked up too, because Tupac's like, I can't take orders from an F word. And this guy's like, I mean, if you literally Google Dr. Dre is gay, the video of him talking to Howard Stern about it comes right up.
Got it.
So there's a weird thing like Dr. Dre's been we have to remember NWA came up as a band that was basically like, we're a bunch of gangsters. But then what came out is Dr. Dre was in this kind of disco-y, quite homosexual-looking band before that called the Wrecking Crew. Not to be mistaken for the one that there's the movie about that played on all the 60s and 70s records. And they were kind of like a funk-influenced thing, but, they dressed... one would say was how the homosexuals of the day dressed. So it came out, but what was an interesting thing is there was then this very big thing that started to surface. So there's this hip-hop magazine called The Source that is kind of like the alternative press for the hip-hop world. And The Source was always talking about the gay rapper, literally in quotes. Wow. And they'd have all these things about what a crazed misogynist he was, and then this thing came out that he beat the crap out of this girl. And... so now it's a little weird because he's a billionaire and an executive in the biggest corporation in the history of capitalism.
So not that anything's inexcusable, but like, were there always like multiple reports of abuse, or was this like one horror?
No, there was always like Page 6 style rumors, but this was the one that went to, this was the one that was confirmed with police reports and pictures and everything. And so like this was always a thing, but like I feel like in the pre-internet era, it kind of went without saying that when you were a popular hip-hop artist that you probably committed some crime, and if this was it, I mean, like, we got to remember before internet feminism hysteria, I'm not saying that that's a bad thing as I say that, but I'm saying it as what the internet calls it. Pre-internet feminism hysteria, SJW, movement, let's remember, like, Scott Weiland's been arrested for the singer of the Stone Temple Pilots, for people who don't listen to terrible music. It's been arrested for, like, wife beating, like, 3 times. Like, this stuff is so rampant in these egomaniacs, and like it just doesn't seem like a big deal until all of a sudden you're a billionaire at the top of a corporation. And also he's under special scrutiny when you release a record called Compton, the soundtrack, and then the picture of your house. His house, literally the square footage is the equivalent to 6 blocks that I live around.
Like, it's that big?
I'm serious. I literally looked at the measurements and then I looked at the map and saw it's 6 blocks of where I live is how big his house is.
That's wild. Wow.
But Compton,
that doesn't
the soundtrack.
Seem efficient.
It's true. You gotta get like a buggy to go to the pool.
He probably has golf carts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's how you got to roll when you're a billionaire. First billionaire in hip hop, dog.
Oh yeah, he beat Jay-Z.
Oh yeah, he definitely beat Jay-Z. Anyway, though, so now everybody's like, "Hey, Apple, that's not cool. This white beater did it," and it's a hard thing to reconcile because I think, like, what I saw a lot of tweets is people culturally being like, "Well, he's a rapper," which I think is really gross.
Oh, that's terrible.
Yeah, like, oh, so because Roddy Radke spit a fat rhyme, are we supposed to forgive him for being the domestic abuser he is?
Right. Totally not.
White boy on the mic.
White boy on the mic.
Gucci sneaks.
Jesus. I think like there's the people that are just like, well, he's allowed to do this, which like, no, he's not allowed to do this. And then it was weird. I tweeted a digital music news link.
I saw. I was very disappointed in you. I actually almost replied, I can't believe you didn't tweet when I brought this up about 6 months ago.
I just missed it, I guess.
Not paying enough attention to me. Biggest mistake you can do.
I guess so. It's interesting because he obviously, I assume, didn't like serve jail time.
No. But, also, let's also remember this, that, these guys never serve jail time because he's a billionaire. When you're rich, you don't serve jail time for domestic abuse.
All right, so I just kind of like wonder, there's, like, if he served jail time and then was, like, whatever of his public service or public prison time, whatever, like, if this would still be an issue, if he had never done anything again. Like, not that doesn't erase what he did. And this is like a very un-Apple thing. But at the same time, they obviously knew who Dr. Dre was when they bought Beats, and they have very smart people who look into people at Apple, obviously, and so they knowingly took this on. It seems like I linked to digital music news because I haven't seen anyone else publicly talking about it, like in the media. They're like really pushing it, and like they ran a story this morning that like Apple continues to ignore Dr. Dre abuse. Runs ads for Dr. Dre's new album, right? And it's a curious thing to me because...
Well, is this really that curious with Apple? Like, let's also remember that Steve Jobs was notoriously, thought to be a very negligent, bad father and did some...
Oh, Steve Jobs was often a horrific person, but probably the smartest person of this in the last, since like Ford, whatever.
I wouldn't agree with these things, but yeah, he was a genius, but I wouldn't
genius,
the smartest. Yes, a genius, but a flawed human being, as
yes.
all of us are. But most of us, our flaws don't extend to kicking the living crap out of a woman.
That's correct. So I wonder though, like, what if Wall Street Journal runs an article that has a look into the inside of Dr. Dre's abuse, and it paints it as Apple executive Dr. Dre, right?
Well, but that's always the thing, is which outlet gets this. It's just like when we were talking having the front porch step, our discussion. If the Star Ledger had run an article that said Warped Tour allowed a sex offender to be around teenagers, the Warped Tour would have been canceled.
Right.
It's just which outlet picks this up, and I think that's the thing is one of the saddest things of our media is they don't want to say these things because then they're going to not get the exclusive in the future.
Totally. And that's the interesting thing. So then behind the scenes is Apple like threatening basically the New York Times and the Washington Post and whatever, being like, don't run this or we're going to blacklist you.
I don't see. This is the funny thing I think about media today is I think that the media knows what they can and can't do. It's the same thing with politicians, that you can't be too hard on a politician or you won't get the interviews, which is I think what's interesting about like what Vice is doing these days is because Vice is both an marketing company and a media company, is they're so not beholden to advertisers because their own marketing company is directing brands to do ads with them to get to their audience, that they aren't beholden, so they can do some of the hardest hitting journalism there is and do the stories that no one else wants to talk about. And I think that that's a very interesting emerging part of the media.
I agree.
But NBC, if they put this out, they're never going to get an Apple exclusive. They're never going to get things. If NBC puts this out there, reporters might not get access. Like you think about what's his name who just did that really good biography on Steve Jobs.
Right.
Whatever publications they're working for, they're not going to get access anymore because they did that.
Right. Yeah, it's really interesting. Just because like this should probably be this should be talked about though, right? Like. I don't think there's anything wrong, as much as I dislike digital music news, for them to be saying, why has no one thought about this? Why is Apple not holding responsible? They wouldn't let a human being that has abused women work for them if it was a low-level developer.
Oh,
right?
yeah,
That
never.
person would be fired.
Yeah,
Instead, they're running a press campaign to hopefully sell 100,000 records for Dr. J next week, right? Or whatever.
Yes, 100% correct.
And that's shitty. 100% shitty, you know?
Yeah.
I don't know. And I'm curious to see if like bloggers or podcasters will talk about it too. I may like ask like semi hashtag off the record, ask a few of the white guy Apple podcasts I listen to, because I just wonder, like, I'm just curious, like, if anyone will talk about it or not, because I do think it's an interesting thing. If it was anyone else, that person, you know, if it was like Eddie Q, if there was a report next week that Eddie Q, one of Apple's highest ranked person, like beat his wife, he would be fired automatically.
Yep, I agree.
So it's really interesting. I don't know.
Well,
are you excited for this? Do you like Dr. Dre? Did you like Dr. Dre?
I mean, sure, there's been some great Dr. Dre produced songs. Do I think I'm going to listen to this record unless I'm forced to? Probably not.
I didn't
don't
realize that he had like a Chinese Democracy album.
Yeah, well, it's more than a Chinese democracy. It's never going to come out.
Yeah. I didn't realize that he hadn't released a record in like 17 years or something.
Yeah, I mean, the difference is he's produced other people's records
Right.
and like done things, but you know, apparently he just couldn't get over this thing. I mean, you gotta also remember, there's very few people you could say like kind of reinvented a genre, and like music history wise, if people don't know this, like hip hop was very sample based. Like for example, the NWA, two total opposite things. NWA records were all samples, and then what happened with Dr. Dre is when all the sample lawsuits came in, he was the first guy who got just great musicians to come in and just replay what he wanted to sample and make the songs, and that became a big part of hip-hop for a long time. And now we're back to extensive sampling and doing more micro samples, but that was one of the most influential things done in hip-hop for a while, and was very, very interesting and special. It really changed the game.
He's like, I mean, it's also the same thing as like how many artists. I mean, I have no idea how old he is, but I know he's not young. Like sometimes artists do stop releasing music.
Yeah, I mean, he was old in NWA. He was the oldest member.
Oh, really?
And so, you know, if you think about it, NWA's heyday was like 89 to 91. By the way, can I just say how excited I am for Straight Outta Compton, the movie?
Are you?
Oh my God, I can't wait. I mean, you
Dr.
gotta realize...
Dre's 50.
Yeah. NWA was one of the more exciting things that happened in my childhood. Like, it was truly dangerous. Like, you couldn't even believe, like, the shit they were doing back then. Like, there's no band that's even akin to them in danger today. Like, it was crazy what was going on.
So I should see this movie?
Oh, yeah.
I've been, like, interested in seeing it. Like, I haven't...
Yeah, I'm definitely...
Do you think it's going to be, like, widely released, though? Like...
Are you crazy? Yeah, of course it's going to be.
Okay,
that's going to be top of the box office.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, didn't know.
Zack's Cultural Ignorance, the final episode.
Are they, like... Who's in the movie?
It's their children playing them.
Oh, my gosh, really?
Yeah.
Isn't it great how I don't know any of this?
Yeah, like I just said, Zack's Cultural Ignorance, the final chapter.
That's really cool.
Yeah, it looks like it's a great movie.
Does Dr. Dre? So it's like Dr. Dre's kid too? I don't know. Like
I think it's like some other kid.
It's Ice Cube's kid.
I didn't pay enough attention to really care.
How crazy is it that Ice Cube was in NWA compared to what he is now?
Well, that's what happens when you grow up, you know.
Yeah. Are any of these other people besides Dr. Dre and Ice Cube like famous outside of?
Well,
NWA?
Eazy-E's dead.
Oh, what happened to him? Did he get shot?
He died of AIDS.
Oh, wow.
Well, so that was the other famous thing is that you know, it was always said that both Eazy and Dre were gay together.
Oh.
That's an unsubstantiated rumor, unlike the other one. But that's been a thing in the hip hop world of rumors for years. But Eazy died of AIDS, and then MC Ren, I believe, is the other one. If I'm correct, and MC Ren is just, you know, he's kind of whatever. You know, he was never the star.
Okay.
The star was definitely Eazy, Cube, and Dre. They were like, you know, they were the ones that, like, when Rolling Stone would do an interview. But if you have to think of this, one of the big things that was significant about them is, like, when the gangster rap thing rise, the murder rate was going off the charts. It was increasing so much that they thought there was going to be blood pouring in the streets by 1996.
Oh, wow.
And then all of a sudden it topped off. A lot. Freakonomics says this is because of the abortion rate. Finally kicked in 18 years after the abortion rate kicks in, crime lowers. There was also ComStat, which is the computer advent of being able to predict crime through statistics. All that happened and crime dropped off. That and massive incarceration. But people were so scared that magazines, even though NWA had #1 records, didn't want to put them on the cover because they were scared they would be called they were promoting violence.
That's pretty crazy.
It was a very crazy time in music. Nothing like that today.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
It's a big question. Who is Suge Knight?
So Suge Knight ran their record label.
Jail all the time, right?
Yeah, he ran their record label. One of the more famous things he did that was at one point when Vanilla Ice was a very big rapper, he hung him off the roof upside down until he signed over his royalties.
Holy shit.
Being negligent of the fact that the California law says that you have to have 2 lawyers sign any music contract because of things like this.
Wow.
And because people
he killed a guy.
Oh yeah, I mean, and a lot of people say Suge Knight killed Tupac. He was a very scary character, and that story, like the Vanilla Ice, there's tons of. But he ran NWA's label Death Row.
Wow.
Yeah. He would do some pretty wild interviews. I'm sure if you Google like 10 wildest quotes from Suge Knight,
there's a listicle somewhere.
There's a listicle somewhere of that dude just saying wild shit to big magazines.
This is interesting. I'm curious. I'm curious to see this film.
Yeah, it's going to be a good time. So, in our favorite subject, streaming music, we do.
I forgot. I thought we were just going to talk about hip hop the whole time.
11 million customers have signed up for their Apple Music trial.
That's up 1 million from last week. Pretty.
Well,
solid.
that was a prediction from last week.
Yeah,
this is more solid numbers, and the App Store had a record-breaking July.
Mm-hmm. It would seem as shit is going well for them.
It seems like it. I think what's been pretty interesting is, at least in the nerdosphere, it seems like Beats is doing pretty well, and everybody says they're expanding Beats, that they have licenses for 5 more Beats stations. Yeah. Beats is going to do video.
They're moving along quickly, and so this is like the one thing I wondered. We talked about this last week. Like, I'm glad that Beats One is moving along, because I'm curious just to see what they can do there. Like, I don't want. It may turn up that none of it is interesting to me, but some of it could be. And, whether it's like something like a podcast or something like stuff like Netflix does, right? Just with shows. Like, if there's one great show that I want to listen to, I'd rather have it than not. So I'm glad that it's a success, so they can keep investing money into it instead of like cutting the cord or something. Not that I thought they were going to do that, but clearly if they're getting so gung-ho and ready to invest, like, the roadmap plan is working so far, which is cool. And the one thing I'm curious about, though, is if their software can iterate as quickly as they're trying to roll more stuff out, because that's what needs to continue moving quickly, right? Like, if Apple Music was like, we're not going to do anything with Beats for 5 more months, but we're going to make the app perfect, I think a lot of people would be happy with that.
I think you're right.
So I'm just curious to see, like, I wonder, like, when iOS 9 comes out, if we'll see a big update to Apple Music kind of thing. Like, and I would like that. But yeah, I'm glad it's going so well. I'm curious to see at the end of the 3-month trial, even though everyone's already given them their credit card, how many of those people will continue to, stay with it. And then once it launches on Android, what that will do.
I'll give you some insight. I don't think I'm staying.
Really? Why not?
The experience is just not fun for me compared to audio.
Is that the app for you, or is that?
Yeah, the app's you know what? There's nothing about it that's making this enjoyable for me. And, like I mentioned last week, them making me choose between a leaked record and having my music library up wasn't too enjoyable to me. Like, it's just not seeming great.
Okay. Well, that's interesting. But, so to me, it does what I need it to do. I 100% agree that the app needs to get a lot better and everything. But I still think this is like a 1.0 product. And for me, it does exactly what I need it to do. But I do think there are probably millions of people that it doesn't do what they want it to do. However, I'm curious. There's been like 2 topics of conversation. Like, will Apple Music get people to leave Spotify? And I think the answer is no. But at the same time, I wonder if people are not similarly lazy to leave Apple Music unless they want to be trying new stuff all the time, right? So I wonder if these 11 million people, if the large majority of them are just going to be locked in, just like those people are locked into Spotify,
Totally. I think a lot of people are just going to stick with it because that was the product that was presented to them.
I fully agree, which is good for Apple.
Yeah. So do we want to get into your last round of questions?
Sure, and these questions are just an ego stroke to me.
Well, they're subbed out.
Well, we're just going to leave those out.
So the first question is, if Fueled by Ramen gives enough promotional support for the Front Bottom's new record and the band gains a larger audience, do you guys think that it could equal bands from the RFC Top Shelf No Sleep scene that they usually tour with, signing major label contracts and getting bigger as well?
I have been told that this front bottom signing is a large test for Fueled by Ramen in terms of their thoughts on this smaller music scene. They love the front bottoms. They want the front bottoms to do really, really well, and they hope they do. And if it does, that they might want to poke around more with what they would deem to be accessible music in the lower ranks of our music scene to bring to the big leagues. Which is interesting, and I do think, though, Fueled by Ramen has a massive spectrum, way above Run for Cover, Top Shelf, No Sleep put together and then multiplied by multiple times. Like, I don't know who asked this question, but Fueled by Ramen has sold tens and tens and tens of millions of albums over the last 15 years, and Run for Cover, Top Shelf, and No Sleep have not sold 1 million albums altogether. I would assume. So, yeah, if Fueled by Ramen can give enough promotion to support the Front Bottoms, I think they're going to be a really massive band. You look at a band like 21 Pilots, who existed in a much smaller way than Front Bottoms did, and now they've already sold like 250,000 copies of the new album that came out in April. And the Front Bottoms are not going to get on the radio like 21 Pilots are, but it just goes to show that if Fueled by Ramen puts the major label machine behind the Front Bottoms, they may very well just take off.
I very much agree. And then anytime any of these bands see increased exposure, as long as the band doesn't take a right turn and leave their scene behind, it just means everybody getting bigger.
Right. And
every once in a while,
are you afraid of a scenification though, like the neonification?
I'm not scared of this scene getting better. I think it's a group of people that will actually do the right thing with it. Unlike, God forbid, Forever the Sickest Kids had ever gotten popular, and that dude who used to jerk off to Sarah Palin had gotten popular.
Yeah, but you love that band, man. Don't be a hypocrite.
Let me tell you something I did last night.
Okay. I'm concerned. Does it involve Sarah Palin?
I rocked out to Underdog Alma Mater just so hard on my way home.
Oh my god. On a bike. Is it dangerous to do that?
I tried to leave one earphone off, but last night it was pretty desolate. I was on the bridge.
Yeah.
So there's no real danger when you're biking over the bridge because it's a bike and walking path. The only real danger is running over the drunken guy who's passed out on it, as I almost did a couple nights ago.
Yeah, I feel like it can't be too safe.
The bridge is pretty damn safe at night.
Okay. What bridge do you go over?
The Williamsburg, dog. That's where I live right next to.
Okay, man. I don't know.
Gotta
there's
learn your new
right
road.
next to each other.
That's the Manhattan and Brooklyn. The Williamsburg is far from those.
Oh, okay. I'm learning.
You're gonna learn this in time.
Can I ask you a question? Why are there no numbered streets in my neighborhood?
Because your neighborhood is the ghetto.
Really?
Yeah, you live next to the ghetto.
You're gonna need to remove this so my mom doesn't hear it.
All right, guess we're chopping out this bit.
There's that Green Street that's really nice.
That Green Street, that's very.
It's literally called Green Street.
Oh yes, that is a nice street. I know what you mean.
I'm like a block away from that. God, in the ghetto. Okay. Well, yes, No Sleep is the ghetto to Fueled by Ramen's Williamsburg.
So UTG James wants to know, in your opinion, what could we do to improve antique records?
It's a stressful question. Don't like to comment on my colleagues' work, except when it's Jesse, because I don't mind making him feel bad. I think with any small label, and maybe this can make it broader, it's really important just to try to get people to want to buy things on a small scale level because it will grow outward from there. I think we've had hiccups with bad timing where we've tried to go after something really large, but it's often premiering something on Spin is going to get you a lot less ears than premiering something on Absolute Punk, because you have a built-in, you at least know that all those people on Absolute Punk maybe want to listen to your song and buy your record. And Spin, you may just be getting a cool press look that actually does nothing for you, especially if Absolute Punk doesn't post it, which is just normal press stuff. But I think you can take that into the level of a record label too, where it's important just to know who you're selling to and focus on how to get those fans, not necessarily all your fans. I don't expect a Kevin Devine fan to buy a Knuckle Puck record and vice versa. There's a small group of people like that in our audience, like myself, that will do that. But it doesn't make sense for us, maybe, if we're sending out a large newsletter and it's only going to be about Knuckle Puck, to include all the Kevin Devine people, depending, because it doesn't make sense and we don't want to burn those bridges. Market to your audience, whoever that audience is, large or small. From Curbside Audio, he is asking 3 questions in a row. So from Jacob Tender, what did you expect to achieve when you started POZ? I expected to achieve nothing when I first started it, and then I think it took a year or so for me to start being like, this is a thing, and I'm gonna try to do something with this thing now. And so there were achievements like, I really want to be the best at interviewing bands, or I want to start making acoustic sessions. So that means I need to buy a flip cam. Remember flip cams?
That was some silly shit.
Yeah, I need to buy a flip cam, and then that wasn't good enough, so I had to buy.
It was pretty weird though. They were ubiquitous and went out of business once they hit ubiquity. It was pretty weird.
Yeah, because as soon as like the iPhone 4 came out, basically, like as soon as the iPhone could take decent video. It was done.
I think it was also the GoPro.
Yeah, totally. But it was crazy. Everyone had one, and then it was done.
I mean, there was no band in my studio without one.
Yeah, it was so weird. Like, whatever. And then that wasn't good enough, so I had to spend like $1,000 on a Canon camera. I think what I wanted to achieve was to not stop growing, and we continued to grow until sometime in early 2014, and then I wanted to achieve different things. And that was great. What do you feel some of your finest achievements in starting POZ are? This is very self-indulgent. Meeting Jesse. Learning about Brooklyn from Jesse. I think my best achievements are creating a culture around myself and with some friends. And I think my finest achievement is making bands popular that I really liked. Like Man Overboard or Modern Baseball or The Wonder Years or Knuckle Puck or so on. And when I say, I don't mean that I was the sole reason those bands got popular, but having some part in it. And then also creating relationships with people in the first few years that I still have today, like someone like Jesse. Or I was talking to someone recently about how it's really cool with Bad Timing that there's like 5 people that are my friends that do not work for Bad Timing, but I can give freelance to 4 times a month. And all those relationships started out of Property Zack, and those are really cool. Jesse, top tips for starting a podcast?
Use SoundCloud, not Libsyn, which I learned the hard way with my other podcast.
What was wrong with that? Just for my
Libsyn said, but the problem was SoundCloud was still in the beta of the podcast, and they kept screwing up, switching my account to a podcast account until 2 weeks after I wanted to launch, and then they're like, "Oh, we got it working. Sorry for the glitch," but now it works much better. I sometimes wonder if we messed up not having a Facebook. You know, I listened to an interview with Maria Popova, who does that website Brain Pickings.
Okay.
And she was talking about how internationally she sees so many people, that's the way they stay in touch with things, because they don't use another thing. And then I started to see it with like Musformation and my book, is that like on the Facebook pages, the people who interact the most are kind of our international fans. And I wonder if we like underestimated that. So I would say be present on every social platform. You know what I thought was a funny thing, to go back to an old off-the-record discussion? Remember when we said that you should judge bands about their Spotify plays, not their Facebook likes?
Yeah.
Have you seen how many likes the Hotelier has?
No.
1,200.
Wow, really?
I thought that was really interesting. I saw, like, because it was like on my feed last night, somebody's like, yo, da-da-da-da likes the Hotelier, and it was 1,200. I'm like, they're a lot bigger than a 1,200.
You're wrong.
Bit. Am I wrong?
Yeah, so,
Maybe
I
they
see
look
what
like
you
the
see.
wrong
There's
page.
actually a second band.
Oh, is that what it is?
Hotelier has 21,000 likes.
Okay. Then it was, so they clicked the wrong one. Okay.
The Hotelier, that's like a Wikipedia one.
Oh, I see. I was gonna say,
They got
what a bad
really
metric.
Get on their social media shit and combine those likes.
Yeah, I was gonna say, what a bad metric.
But regardless, I mean, I don't know. Like Evan and I had one for Simpler Sound. Just like with Bad Timing, Thomas and I like argue over which of us have to post on Facebook, and then we always say we could just shut this down tomorrow. Like,
yeah, it's weird because I don't think people should focus on it, but I do think there's a thing that's where a lot of people are getting their news, even if it is just occasional, or if it's just the international. That does help.
Yeah.
For the minimal effort.
Totally.
Especially if you have an auto-aggregate.
Right. It's just a routine.
Yes.
Yeah. Good question.
Do we have any other tips?
Hot tips?
Pre-produce. pre-produce. You and I had originally, when we started this, we were going to tape episodes till we got good, and then we just actually liked.
We
the
just
first
went
one.
for it, but
But
clearly,
we liked the first 2 episodes. I was ready to tape 3 before we ever put one on
Yeah.
there, and I think that's important. And one of the things I'm doing with the new version of Off the Record is like I'm basically getting 5 episodes together in advance to make sure that I have solid material at first.
I do think that we kind of took our time, though. We knew that we wanted to. It wasn't like we were like, all right, let's launch a podcast and launch it the next day. You know, like I feel like we still did take our time a little bit, and realize and like talked about what we wanted to talk about, and eventually that changed and evolved as the show got better, hopefully. But I feel like we did spend some time planning, which is good.
Yeah, and you know what? Another thing we do is we don't even just pre-produce, we also post-produce. 1, you and I take extensive notes about what we want to talk about during the week, and then 2, on the back end of it, I chop out a lot.
He does. He deletes everything I say. This won't even make it into the podcast.
They have no idea how many tangents of yours are gone.
I don't even know.
They have no idea how many times I edited out me saying the word and you said editing out the words even though I do it about 1.5 to every one of yours.
And you say...
I could literally see what both of our look like. And
you know what they look like now?
I know what they look like, and I just
so
go
romantic.
and chop. I chop them out as I go, and then there's the other thing of I have to chop out a lot of Zack banging on the keys as hard as he can, typing something at somebody mid podcast.
Mm-hmm. God, that's
These
so
are all
romantic that
important.
You know what my arms look like.
I think there's a funny thing though there's a lot of podcasts that don't edit out the parts that no one would want to hear. Like just even like there's some people's podcasts I listen to. It's like really like why are we listening to you guys get caught back up about your girlfriends?
Don't we do that?
It's like just, I mean every once in a while there's a mention, but I'm not being like so. Where'd you Grace go on a date this week? Oh wait, we do that.
Sometimes we do. Don't listen to us. Don't prepare.
Hey, they don't have a choice. There's no more to listen to.
Oh my God, I'm gonna get emotional.
So the next question from Milton Sagahan is best way to help artists other than buying their music, streaming service that pays them better, merch. Name your own price on Bandcamp being the best thing right now because that's basically a tip jar if they have that. Other than that, see if they have a PayPal donate button.
And I mean too, just like go to shows in general.
Yeah.
Just go to shows.
Go to shows, buy as much merch as you can, even if you're giving it as gifts.
Yeah, agreed.
So at Maddie K. Ray wants to know what's the best thing POZ gave you?
Should I be like gross and disgusting and sappy?
Yeah.
All right. I started Property Zack with some friends, and Connor helped me. And only by knowing Connor did I then meet Grace. And now I'm very happy in a long-term relationship. And that's gotten me to see beyond work and to see the finer things in life, Jesse. Like Brooklyn.
Wow. I don't know what these things are, but I'm glad you found them.
Me too.
That was pretty sweet. You're such a romantic.
She won't listen to this, but whatever.
That's pretty, you know, I'll do you the solid. I'll go up to her next time I see her, and I'll be like, man, you should have heard the sweet things Zack said about you on the last episode. Then you got so many brownie points you could totally get away with. Like the next time you do something that really pisses her off, those brownie points will take you far.
I went to IKEA with her this weekend. I can do whatever the fuck I want.
That's a hell of a relationship sacrifice. You know, Noelle made me go to IKEA, and to return something, it took an hour.
Oh, I've been to IKEA with her twice in the last 60 days. Terrible.
So you know when they say that love is not what you say, it's what you do? Right there. That's
what I'm
action.
saying. And I try to build up so much what you do credit so that I can't get in trouble.
IKEA is like 4,000 points, whereas like, you know, like holding the door open for them is 4. That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying.
I agree. Okay. Well, Jesse and I are going to be in agreement about this next question.
I mean, this is a no offense to the person asking, but this is a silly question.
And this person is from that other place, but he's so dumb.
Ben Bushnot wants to know what's better, New York or Chicago style pizza.
Like,
and
see
Chicago's like Chicago style pizza is not pizza. Like that shit is
that's
whack.
Tomato.
It's like a tomato cheese pie.
You're having pasta sauce with some cheese in it.
Yeah, that shit is whack.
It's so bad.
I you know, when I had to spend a lot of time in Chicago because my ex was working out there for the Obama campaign for a year, and so we went out and we gave the college try. We went to all the most famous Chicago places. We made all the lists, everything that was on numerous lists. We're like, let's try all these. That shit is whack.
I had never had deep dish pizza, and I went to Riot Fest the first time in 2013, And Thomas and I came home early. We didn't watch the replacements. And we ordered a deep dish pizza from like the best place or whatever. And it was so bad. I was so bummed. New York pizza. Get your shit together.
I mean, if you ever have any doubt and you happen to be traveling between these two cities, all I have to say is go to Joe's Pizza in New York City. I feel like that's a quintessential New York slice, and then that you can get in a lot of different neighborhoods. And then head on over to Chicago and go to any of those shitholes and then laugh your ass off that people call that pizza.
Yep. Oh, I'm really concerned for this next question.
So Maddie K. Ray wants to know, worst part about working with Zack? It's okay, you could be honest. I mean, this is so easy. One, you keep the hours of a, geriatric octogenarian grandmother.
Yep.
So Zack is continually, when I get off of work at 2 to 3 in the morning, made me do podcasts before noon at times, which very not enjoyable to me, obviously.
I just can't be up late.
Yeah, and so that's the other thing is like, this one can't stay up, and then obviously like having to talk about some of these fuckboy terrible bands that he likes.
Well, I tried.
I mean, he's made me talk about Taylor Swift for probably like 10 hours of my life.
A lot of hours.
I've had to talk about five seconds. I mean, I like Blink-182, but 5 seconds of summer, fucking all-time low. Like, come on. Armor for Sleep. What is this shit?
Great shit, man.
Awful.
All right. Well, nice to know you.
So the last question
I don't know what this question is.
The last question for you before you step away from this podcast is from @GumbyJag. It says, "What's the one story you will fondly remember covering or overall being an active part of?"
I think
I feel like the Fall Out Boy thing, and then
that was the most memorable, without like a single doubt. I really enjoyed covering some of the A Day to Remember Victory record stuff because it was so
that was fun.
It was fun, and it was like a big fuck you to Victory, and that was fun. I think those would kind of be it. I mean, those are the largest. I just think overall, I enjoyed covering maybe storylines is maybe too serious of a term, but just following the projections of bands, seeing just even with the Front Problems, like we were talking about before. I went to see them open up for a hardcore band at Maxwell's in 2010 or 11, maybe 2010. And now they're signed to Feel by Ramen, or in a pretty big band 5 years later, 6 years later. And it's just the seeing these bands start at A and go to B, and obviously many of them break up or do bad things or whatever. But there's many little red herrings in there, and that's been my favorite part. I think it's just seeing bands that I like go to places that I want them to go to.
That's a great answer.
Thank you, Jesse. Thank you.
So Zack, that's the end of the questions. Is there anything you'd like to say on your last few minutes on Off the Record?
Are you ever going to have me back?
I mean, since Off the Record's gonna be very story based, I am gonna extend this invite that if there's ever a time you want to talk about something, I will put aside my hatred for the two white guys with annoying voices format that I'm looking to leave behind, and have you back to talk about anything you'd like.
Oh wow! Well, I would like to say thank you. 65 weeks in a row is pretty crazy, and it's been fun and weird and good and exciting because I really love podcasts, and that's why I wanted to start one. And I remember not knowing who to start one with, and then eventually I was like, oh, Jesse, duh. And I was like, no, that makes sense. Yeah. And it's been cool, and some of it's been hard or frustrating. It's hard to keep a schedule, and that's why it's been also really cool to do something almost at the same time every week for over a year, and it's been great, and I'm gonna miss it. It's gonna be weird to not have it. We're recording this one on Thursday, and I realized that I didn't record any podcasts on Monday, and that was weird. So thank you for listening. I am going dark, but I will be able to be found on Twitter until I reappear. And now Jesse's going to cut out all of these ums, so you're not going to hear any of them.
I'm going to just say that by going dark, because I don't buy that he's actually going to stay off the internet, he really means he's getting a suntan.
I am very tan right now.
I know. The last time I saw you, you were already pretty tan.
Yeah, I am Israeli.
I'm about as tan as I get right now, too.
Yeah,
so
he's very pasty.
Yeah.
Well,
Okay, well, I hope you all enjoyed the 1.0 version of this podcast. Please bear with me for a few days while I get the 2.0, and I hope you join me for it despite the obviously huge loss we are having, which is, I really do sincerely mean it. I really will actually miss this part of it. I said to Zack privately that when I got the email he was going to do it, the saddest thing for me was that we were going to do this every week and talk to each other for an hour.
totally. 100% agreed. I'm going to miss it, and I will be back to talk about Taylor Swift in the near future.
God, no.